Welcome to Football in the Dirty Glove.
Foosball's the devil.
I was not ready for the Dirty Glove. This is Great Lakes State football with Brett, Kory, and Vince. Jesus Christ. I was not ready for Brett to say the Dirty Glove. I didn't know that was coming. Anyway, here we are, episode 3, moving right along here, talking everything football in the beautiful Great Lakes State. We're very excited because we have our second guest in 2 episodes here after having Tate Baker on from the D-Zone last week. We are thrilled to welcome on Mr. Chris Castellani a little bit later in the episode. So we greatly appreciate that he's willing to spend some time with us to talk University of Michigan football. But before we get to our guest and talking about Michigan, we do have some other football to talk about from around the state. Very exciting news out of Division II football with Ferris State. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about Kory's favorite average white guy football team, my alma mater, Hillsdale College. Last Saturday, they played in one of 4 D2 bowls that currently exist. As I mentioned, when we previewed this, they're mostly conference crossover games. So Hillsdale College, second place in the GMAC, got invited to play Truman State, who, even though it wasn't second place, they're actually third in the GLVC. I believe Indy must have turned down the invite. Hillsdale and Truman State actually played in a non-conference game earlier in the year, with Hillsdale losing by about 3 or 4 points in a bit of a shootout. I believe it was 38-35 or 38-34. And Hillsdale kept it pretty much a defensive struggle in the first half. This game was 6-3 Truman State at halftime. Unfortunately, Hillsdale could not keep up offensively in the second half as they lost 34-17. So there's quite a bit of scoring in that second half. 6 total touchdowns scored in the second half after no first half touchdowns. Hillsdale ends the year at 6-6, does keep their 500 plus season streak alive. I believe they are going on 5 straight seasons now of 500 or better. So good for them. Truman State ended the season 9-3.
Brett, how's your brother feel about the bowl game?
Brett's younger brother Cole is a senior.
Big C.
Any thoughts coming out of that for Big C from you, Brett?
Big C.
You know, I'm really happy for him. He had a great career. For the most part, he was pretty healthy throughout his entire career. I know he would have liked to come out with a W, but, you know, going into his last game at home on senior day at Muddy Waters Stadium, which he thought was going to be his last game, they won and on a touchdown in the last, I don't know, what was it, Vince? 30
less
seconds?
than a minute. It was, less than a minute. And against a really good team, Ohio Dominican finished the year 8-3, I believe. Yeah,
so it's really funny. They won that game, and they found out they had another game in Hobart, Indiana, destination of all Midwesterners.
At a high school.
At a high school.
And a weird D2 bowl game.
A super average bowl game in the middle of Indiana.
Still a cool experience. So, you know.
It was a cool experience. I'm glad he got one more shot for the Chargers. I know that he enjoyed his time there, and I'll always be following the Chargers every Saturday from here on out.
Right. Go Chargers. Go Chargers.
I thought you were going to sing the fight song.
That's
Charge on, the white Charger. Charge on. We're rooting for you. Okay, I'll stop. All right, so we're going to move on. Chargers, great season, solid season, but we're going to move on here to the big topic in Division II out of Michigan here. Ferris State is back in the Final Four.
Ferris is back.
Yeah, they had a heck of a win. Ferris has now beaten 2 powerhouse programs in the playoffs. They dominated Grand Valley at home last week, and they just dominated at home on Saturday. Northwest Missouri State, a program that has won 6 national titles, has had 25 straight winning seasons and 17 straight playoff appearances. Northwest Missouri State is, honestly, I'm sure most people would agree with me, even more of a powerhouse in D2 than Grand Valley, as Grand Valley has won 4 national titles to their 6. Still crazy, man. Ferris State took down 2 teams that have a combined 10 national championships and more than 30-something playoff appearances combined. So very impressive. They beat them 41-20, once again at home up in Big Rapids. So another dominant win over a really good program. This is actually Ferris State's 3rd straight playoff victory over Northwest Missouri State. If you don't count, the 2020 season was canceled in D2 for most programs. They beat them in the playoffs 25-3 in 2019, and they beat them in the playoffs 27-21 in 2018 when they were national runner-up back in 2018. So I don't know about you guys, but I personally think that this might be Ferris State's year. They are now set to play at home again because they have home field advantage for the semifinals. They're playing Shepherd. Shepherd, on the other hand, is not a powerhouse, but they have had quite a bit of success. Shepherd has gone to a national championship. They went to one and lost back in 2015 to Northwest Missouri State, who won it that year. Ferris and Shepherd are both averaging 46 points per game. So both pretty solid offenses, very powerful offenses. Shepherd has played 2 more games. Shepherd played 11 regular season games. Ferris only played 10, and Shepherd did not get a first round bye. So Shepherd has played 14 games. Ferris has only played 12. Ferris is giving up 19 points per game. Shepherd is allowing 24 points per game. So Shepherd's defense a little bit more porous than Ferris State's. I personally think, looking through the schedules of both teams, Ferris State has played a tougher schedule, much tougher opponents. Shepherd has faced some more adversity. They have won all of their playoff games by a touchdown or less, 7 points, 4 points, and 2 points. So each of their games getting closer and closer. So I don't know if you guys have anything to add on this, but
the first thing I would say is, what's up with Ferris's 2 quarterback system that they got going on? Malik Mitchell started last game, and Barnhart played the week before, which is just super crazy to me. If you think about it, I went to Northwood where we hardly had 1 starting quarterback, let alone 2 that were elite. So,
hey man, Tony Anise likes to do crazy things. Same guy who puts a right-footed punter and a left-footed punter on the same punt formation.
Very true.
Side by side.
Just kind of crazy. I think it'll be a good game though. So Shepherd won last week on a Hail Mary, which is also kind of nuts, like you said.
Oh, that 2-point game was on a Hail Mary?
Hail Mary with no time remaining.
That was their revenge on Coots too. They lost to Kutztown earlier in the year.
I'm gonna say, Shepherd's only loss was to Kutztown, that was who they just beat by 2 points. Kutztown beat them 37-29 in the regular season in a conference.
So Vince, you watched the game. What do you think of Ferris's offense? I mean, obviously we know how potent they are. They rack up a stupid amount of points.
Stupid amount of points.
I'm trying not to swear this week, folks. Bear with
Kory's
me. It's
trying to clean up his language. I watched, pretty much that entire game. I was really impressed with Ferris State's response. Every time they had something go wrong or Northwest Missouri State would score, Ferris would come right back and respond. They pretty much had a response to everything Northwest Missouri State did. Offensively, their biggest thing is their quarterback, man. Very explosive, not a great arm. The tall, lanky one. You're gonna have to help me with the name.
Malik Mitchell played against Northwest Missouri State.
That was Malik Mitchell?
But the week before was a whole different quarterback started against.
Yeah, I was not aware of that. That's crazy. But the guy Malik who started last week, heck of a scrambler. Not a great passer, but I mean, if nothing was open or he felt like he couldn't get a pass off, he was gone. And Northwest Missouri State really did not have an answer for him out in space. They could not tackle him. I posted on our Twitter account one of his touchdowns that was incredibly impressive. He got drilled at the goal line and somehow
turned into a top.
Yeah, but somehow stayed on his feet and got into the end zone, and he was fine. And he just got absolutely crushed. Very impressive athlete, man. I have not watched any of Shepherd this year, but kind of going through their scores and their competition. I think this is going to be a good game. I would imagine, looking at Ferris State's defense, that they might hold Shepherd to fewer points than they've had all year. That's my hot take for the game. As of this point, the lowest point total Shepherd had all year was in their loss to Kutztown, and it was 29 points. And it would have been last week if they hadn't got the Hail Mary, because they only scored 30. So Kutztown held them to 29 and 30. That was their lowest output all year. I am going to guess that Ferris holds them to 4 touchdowns or less.
Ferris is low in the year is 35.
Yeah, against
I was going to say
against Grand Valley. against
They've
Grand Valley.
played Grand Valley twice, who probably had a top
And
10
Wayne
defense.
State.
Wayne's, yeah, I don't know how Wayne State's defense was, but Grand Valley's defense is stellar. Northwest Missouri State's defense was damn near better than Grand Valley's, and they're putting up 40 a game, so it's kind of crazy.
Very
Our almighty leader vanished.
Yeah, it's a very no. I'm still here. My video is going. My video is going wonky on me, so I'm still here talking. I'm trying to get my video to work. There it goes. Yeah, my hot take is that they will hold Shepherd to their lowest point total of the year. I truly believe that. I think the GLIAC is one of the best even with, as we talked about last week, I think in our last episode, we've talked about how the GLIAC has slowly vanished. I still, in terms of the number of teams playing, I still think it's a lot of quality opponents that are there. And Ferris, what they did to Grand Valley twice this year, especially in the playoffs, and then what they just did to Northwest Missouri State, who is a powerhouse. I really think this is their year. Their problem is Valdosta State is waiting on the other side. Valdosta State seems to be their Achilles heel, as that was the team that beat them in the national title in 2018 by 2 points. It seems to be those Southern schools, because Valdosta State's from Georgia. West Florida beat them in the playoffs in 2019. So those Southern schools seem to have their number. So
I think Ferris keeps racking it up 40 a game, and I think they win it all without any issues. They've gotten past the two best defenses.
I think if they get to the national title, I think Anise will have those guys ready to go. This team is averaging 7 more points per game still. I mentioned this earlier in another episode than the 2018 team. They're averaging a whole touchdown more. So I think this offense is even better.
I agree with both of you. I think Ferris State's going to win by at least 3 touchdowns. I don't even think it's going to be close. It's going to be 44 degrees, chance of rain and snow in Big Rapids.
That's the biggest thing, man, is the home field advantage. They got to go all the way from West Virginia.
There's nothing else to do in Big Rapids at 3:30 on Saturday. Everyone's going to be
and watch football.
Yep. Everyone's packing in the top tagger, and they have a common opponent this year. They both played Findlay this year.
Yeah,
Ferris State won 54-14 the first game of the year. And Shepherd won 38-31. So, I mean,
and Findlay was a playoff team. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can't compare games, but I think Ferris is going to wax them. This is their first all-time matchup too. So I'm looking for Ferris to start out 1-0 all-time against Shepherd.
Shepherd.
I think one other thing too is this game's also airing on ESPN Plus. So I don't know if those of you have an ESPN subscription, but you can watch it live on ESPN Plus. One thing I also found was pretty interesting is maybe the X factor in the game is a fellow by the name of Cy Barnett. Have either of you guys heard of Cy Barnett?
He's a Lansing guy, isn't he?
I don't know where his roots are, but he just so happens to be a kicker, a punter, and a wide receiver for the Ferris State football team. He was 0 for 1 on field goals last week. He had 2 punts and also had 3 receptions last week against Northwest Missouri State.
Quite
the modern age D2 Chad Ochocinco.
But no, Ferris State big, no question.
All right, sounds like we are unanimous here at Great Lakes State football with Ferris State getting back to the D2 national championship in 2021. They're returning after 3 years. I think so too. All right. So moving on here, we are going to talk some bowl games. Speaking of which, shameless plug. We are currently set up and shared out on our Instagram and our Twitter. We will put the links down below on the YouTube version of this podcast, and we will share this out again over the next week. But we have a Great Lakes State Football Bowl Pick'em through ESPN currently going on. Our beautiful co-host, Kory Schraben. If you would like to join, Venmo him $10, Kory-Schraben, capital K, capital S, and DM us. We will send you the password and the link to join. So we currently have like almost $250 in the pot, and we're looking to build on that. So reach out to us. We still have a little over a week here until bowl games begin. So we're going to keep pushing this out. We're hoping maybe to double that and get over $500 in that pot. We're going to pay out to the top 3 winners, 85, 10, and 5. So there's
just had another one roll in.
Oh yeah, there's one right there.
Rack up the dollars, baby.
Rack it up. We're pushing. We have about 250 right now, hoping to double that in a week here. So help us out. Get a big bowl. big bowl pick 'em pot going here. All right, so we are going to preview 4 bowl games here. We will end when we get Chris Castellani on as our guest about Michigan. But first, we're going to talk MACtion here really quick. All 3 Michigan MAC schools had solid seasons we talked about last week, and all 3 of them got bowl bids. Let's talk first. Eastern Michigan here is invited to the Lending Tree Bowl against Liberty. Yeah, you got to love some of these sponsors for the bowl games. Yeah. Liberty has only been a Division I major FBS school for, I believe this is their 3rd or 4th season now. And crazy enough, they have actually won and been to 2 bowl games before this season. So they beat Georgia Southern in a bowl game in 2019, and they beat Coastal Carolina in the 2020 bowl in a weird season. So this is their 3rd straight bowl game after joining the FBS. They are currently 7-5. Playing Eastern Michigan, who is also 7-5, and Eastern Michigan is looking for their first bowl win since 1987. Gentlemen, what do we think here?
So pretty crazy. Malik Willis, the quarterback for Liberty, has actually been like projected as the number 1 quarterback taken in the draft. Like he's been in talks and consideration potentially to the Lions. I pray to Jesus not, because I'm assuming he's not playing much NFL talent at Liberty.
Yeah, he's going 7-5. He's not winning in Detroit.
Well, I will mention that Liberty is independent. So Liberty has played a lot of Power 5 schools. They did play Syracuse. They did play Mississippi. They played Ole Miss.
Oh, that's not bad.
They only lost to Ole Miss by 13. That was pretty impressive.
Isn't the coach of Liberty Hugh Freeze? I think he used to coach at Ole Miss.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. I just know Malik Willis is pretty good. They're talking he may go to the Lions. EMU is pretty good. They got a pretty solid quarterback. I'm going to take Liberty in this one because I just don't think EMU has the guts to win their first bowl game.
Bart?
I'm going Liberty as well. As much as I'd like to see Eastern win, I don't think Eastern's played a quarterback like Malik Willis all year. And although Liberty is only 7-5, I just think that they're going to run away at this one. Although Eastern is the lowest penalized team in all of college football. So
fun fact.
Yeah. So if Eastern can win the turnover battle and maybe get some penalties against Liberty, they might be able to stay in it. But I'm going with Liberty.
Yeah, this was a tough one for me too. I really would like to see Eastern win their first bowl game in nearly 4 decades. You know, they're going on 35 seasons here without a bowl win. I would really like to pick them for this, but you're talking about a Liberty team that has won 2 straight bowl games, won 10 games last year as an independent. So they were playing Power 5 schools. They beat Virginia Tech and Syracuse last year. They played Ole Miss tough. They played Army tough, and Army has 9 wins on the season. I would like to pick Eastern, but I think I'm also going to go with Liberty. I think Liberty, unfortunately, will take this one from Eastern and really starts off their time in the FBS with an impressive 3 straight bowl wins. So,
Liberty, all right, Liberty.
Hopefully they lend some trees in this bowl game, or there's going to be some upset people.
All right, we're going to move on here to the next one. We have Central Michigan, our Chippewas, playing Boise State in the Arizona Bowl that's sponsored by Barstool Sports.
We should go.
Boise State has quite the impressive, I don't know if you guys looked this up, quite the impressive stretch. Boise State has gone to a bowl game for 20 straight seasons. 20 straight seasons, 22 in 23 years. They have not had a losing season since 1997. So Boise State, even though they're a mid-major program, had quite a bit of success. What do you guys think about this one?
They just played in the Mountain West Championship too, which is kind of nuts. And I would say the
no, they did not. That was Utah State and San Diego State.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, they played San Diego State the week before.
You're right. Yes, they lost. They lost in a close one.
Punch myself in the throat.
Yeah, you won some money on that one too.
I did. My bad. I hate to hate on Brady Hoke. Pray on that guy. But no, I would say the Mountain West is higher valued than the MAC. What do you guys think?
I agree.
That's kind of my take.
We had a huge conversation about this. What was it, last episode, where we all kind of agreed, or maybe it was 2 episodes ago, that the MAC has the trickle down effect, being stuck in the Midwest with all the Big Ten schools. I just think they're a mid-major program that gets the leftovers. And the Mountain West is in an area that it's far more spread out. There's not as many opportunities to go to major Power 5 conferences in that massive portion of America, where all those schools are located. So
in California, but yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying in general, the competition's far more spread out. It's not as condensed and saturated in one area. So I think you do get better schools, better teams in the Mountain West.
It's a better game atmosphere too. I mean, if you watch a Boise State game, there's 50,000 people there. There's nothing else.
There's nothing else to do in Idaho. Exactly. So everyone is all in on Boise State. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're going to get
some
of the top
Idaho.
Is Lou Nichols playing for Central? I know he's in the portal. I didn't know if he was going to play this game or not. Because that's going to be a determining factor in my pick. I couldn't find anything on it, but that's going to be a big influence on the game, in my opinion. But either way, I don't think anyone's picked yet. I'm going to go Boise. I think they're going to win this game. First meeting since 2001. I think it was. Yeah, 2001. There it is. Central's made a bowl 11 out of the last 16 years, so fire up chips, but go Broncos here.
I agree with that. I would say Boise's my favorite. Central's D gives up a ton of points, like 26 a game. And Boise's a passing team, so I think they're just going to sling that rock all over the field and go on their merry way.
Yeah,
I think Boise's a little upset that they're not playing in the Potato Bowl this year. It's home field.
Yeah, I have to agree. Central has given up over 300 points this year. They've almost scored 400. So they've actually scored more points than Boise State has. And Boise State is only 7-5. But again, I think their competition's tougher. They lost to Oklahoma State by 1 point. Mm-hmm. Boise State did 21-20. They got beat by 5 points by Central Florida. They got beat by Nevada by 10, who's also in a bowl game. They lost to San Diego State in a close one, I think. And Boise State has won 4 or 5 of their last 6 games, or 5 of their last 7, excuse me. I think they're kind of coming together here. I also got to go with Boise State, I think, unfortunately. I would love to pick Central, but
the game's going to
be. Go ahead, Brett.
The games would be a nice little prelude to the playoffs. They kick off at, 1 or 2 o'clock on New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
I was going to say we could all just be lying about our picks right now and then pick the other one for the bowl.
Yes, for the bowl pick'em. You don't know. If you're a listener, you don't know who we're picking. All right, let's move on to our last action game here. We got Western Michigan playing Nevada in the Quicken Lanes Bowl, and actually Kory and I will be going to this game at Ford Field in Detroit.
It's actually just the Quick Lanes Bowl. That's on me.
Quick Lanes Bowl. Whatever.
That's what I thought.
So we will be going to this game in Detroit at Ford Field.
That's strike 2, Kory.
We are very excited. I've never been to a bowl game before, even though this is a, obviously a mid-major matchup and, kind of a who gives a shit bowl game. I'm still pretty excited to go to my first ever bowl game. It's just down the road. So looking forward to this. What do you guys think about this Nevada?
Wait, hold on. Before we dive into this, Vince, you're going to make a stop at Atwater Brewing at some point. Before or after the game?
I did go to Atwater Brewing Company after with your dad and my dad for the state championship games.
The problem is the game's at 11, so you'd be at Atwater Brewing at 10 a.m. on a Monday, and I just don't think that's appropriate.
Oh, before the game? Oh, I thought you meant after the game.
It depends what time you guys got to pick up your damn babies.
4:30. Well, actually, my dad's watching my kids, so I can pick them up whenever.
I was going to say, that's going to be tight if you're going to
just need to be home before dinner time. All right, people listening don't give a shit about this. Let's move on. All right, what do you guys think about the Western Michigan Nevada bowl game here?
I think it's going to be an extremely high-scoring game. Both teams have pretty lethal offenses. Western can get it done through the air.
Western has a pretty bad defense, though.
Yeah, exactly. They can get it done through the air like Neil Armstrong and get it done on the ground like George Patton, just like Jim Harbaugh likes to say. But I'd like to see the Broncos win this, but unfortunately, like we were talking about, those Mountain West teams
are sneaky.
I think they're sneaky. They are sneaky.
They were saying Nevada is the best 4-loss team in the country.
Nevada has a very good quarterback.
4 losses on a combined 17 points.
Sounds like Nebraska.
Oh, 17 in terms of the loss differential, total. The differential.
Yeah,
I see that right now. They lost to Kansas State by 21. That was their worst loss. Fresno State by 2, San Diego State by 2, Air Force by 2. They lost 3 games by 6 total points.
Yeah.
They gave up less than 300 on the year. Their defense is really solid, actually.
I think that if Western can get to the quarterback, they can stay in it. Carson Strong's passed for over 4,000 yards this year for Nevada. But he's not very mobile, and he has minus 208 rushing yards. So he's been sacked a few times this year. But I'll take the Wolf Pack.
I am also, again, unfortunately, the trend is going to continue. I would love to pick these MAC schools, but I think the Mountain West is sneaky. I think Nevada finishes the season with 9 wins, which would be their best record since Colin Kaepernick in 2010 when they went 13-1.
I think Western's going to take this one. They beat Pitt at Pitt this year, so they've played some good talent. They've played some good quarterbacks. I trust in the Broncos.
All right, you heard it here first, folks.
And that was strike 3 because apparently I don't know how to read 21 points compared to 10. So strike 3. I'm no longer the fact checker for this podcast. I'm fired.
Done.
I'm gonna go drink a bottle of bourbon and cry myself to sleep with my cats.
Your 100 cats are gonna sleep in your bed with you?
I don't even need blankets. They just lay on me.
All right. Well, the last bowl game we are going to get to here is Michigan State versus Pittsburgh, because we will talk about Michigan a little bit later in the podcast with our guest. Michigan State playing Pittsburgh in the Peach Bowl, first New Year's Six bowl since they went to the College Football Playoffs in 2015. If they find a way to win this game, they're currently 10-2. If they get to 11-2, it'd be their most wins since that season, 2015. And Mel Tucker would only be the second coach in MSU history to win 11 or more games. D'Antonio won 11 or more 5 times and 10 or more 6 times. So Pittsburgh is scoring 43 points per game. And as Brett reminded me, the ACC is not so hot. The competition is certainly down among Power 5 conferences. Pittsburgh is also allowing 23 points per game. A lot of their games were pretty high scoring. Michigan State averaging 32 points per game. They gave up 26 points per game on the year, only 23 per game if you exclude the Ohio State game. That 56 kind of sways their average by an extra 3 points there. I am predicting a shootout. I am going to guess that if Kenneth Walker gets healthy, he kind of nursed an ankle injury for the last couple of games of the year. If he is healthy and plays, as of right now, the projections are that Kenneth Walker is going to play in this game. I haven't seen anything to say otherwise. I'm assuming Kenny Pickett is going to play. I haven't seen anything to say otherwise that he's not playing. If those two are playing, I think Pickett throws all over Michigan State's secondary. I think Kenneth Walker, they haven't played a running back like him. I think he runs all over them. I think he goes for 200 yards. I think Pickett throws for almost 500 or 500 or more. I think it's going to be a 40-something to 40-something game. I think the determinant for this game is going to be which one of these teams holds the other one to field goals. I think it's going to be a bend, don't break defense kind of situation, especially for MSU's porous pass defense. And I also believe that the team that wins the turnover battle and explosive plays battle, because both of them will have explosive plays, whoever wins that battle wins this game. I personally think Mel Tucker gets these guys ready. I think he finds a way to get them ready to go. It's very interesting that they're playing against former Michigan State defensive coordinator of
Pat Narduzzi.
Yep, 7 or 8 years under. I think it was 8 years under D'Antonio. Mr. Pat Narduzzi, heck of a job at MSU, but. Yeah, I'm going to go with Michigan State. I think it's less. I think it's a score that's very high. I think it's going to be 80 or 90 combined points. I really do. And I truly believe that the winner wins this game by 8 points or less, maybe by 2 or 3 points. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this one, but
you done?
I just said, do you guys have any thoughts on this one? Jackass.
I will agree with you. I think that MSU is probably going to be the better team coming into this game. I don't really trust in Pitt. I do trust in Narduzzi. I think he's a great defensive coach, even though Pitt's defense necessarily hasn't been good. The one big thing that just happened today, Pitt lost their OC. Sounds like he's heading out to Nebraska. So he will not be coaching in the game. So that might affect some things, but who knows? I mean, coaches move so dang much. You'd really have no idea. I'm going to say MSU wins. K9's going to come into the game healthy. If he doesn't, then we need to fire the trainers in East Lansing because he's got a month to ice an ankle. So, yeah, I would say MSU. I just don't like Pitt. I don't like the bullshit that Pickett pulled this weekend when he did the fake slide. I think somebody should have decapitated him and he should have been taken off on a stretcher for that bullshit. So, just my 2 cents.
Brett, anything to add?
You're muted.
You swore, so that's strike 4.
3 strikes, you're out.
I kind of agree with you guys. It's kind of a sloppy game right now. I don't know what to predict. There's a lot of moving parts. Pitt lost their OC. Kenny Pickett. Is he going to play or not? He doesn't have his OC. Pitt also, Pat Narduzzi, he's a defensive guy. They have the 6th best rushing defense in college football at 91 yards a game, so that could play a big role in things. But I'm gonna go away from you guys, and I'm gonna pick Pitt to win this game.
I honestly could see it go either way. I
go
love my Spartans, but I don't have 100% faith in this defense with going up against the Heisman Trophy hopeful in Kenny Pickett. All right, and before we bring on our guest from Barstool Sports, Mr. Chris Castellani, there is one other topic that we do want to hit on here, and that is the Detroit Lie Downs. The beautiful, ugly, awful Lions got an MFing win. They are 1-10-1. They won on a last-second pass against their rivals, the Minnesota Vikings, at home. Kory, our in-house Lions fanatic. How you feeling, man?
Loving every second of it. Loving that this team's still being competitive, which is a testament to Coach Campbell. And yeah, I don't know. It's pretty freaking cool. It was probably the highlight of the Lions season. It's kind of funny. They're still not out of the playoff race yet, which is hysterical. I mean, who knows?
The fact that they're not mathematically.
What if we went out? What if we went out? I mean,
what if we went out, huh?
It'd be very Lions-esque. Offense still sucks. Jared Goff is still very average, but he also didn't have a running back this week. Defense is holding strong.
They've only allowed over 30 points 4 times this year in their 12 games.
Well, the Vikings were missing. Thielen got hurt and Dalvin Cook was out. So
that is true.
Thielen got hurt during the game, though. It wasn't like he was out heading into.
Yeah,
it was in the whole first half. Yeah,
it was in the first half.
I think coming away from this game, I'm Kory is a far more optimistic Lions fan than I am. But the one thing that impressed me, and I sent this text to Kory and Brett, was the post-game locker room video. I shared this on Twitter. I quote tweeted this and said, Dan Campbell is the guy, end tweet. And I sincerely mean that after watching this video. All 3 of us have played a lot of football. Kory and I have coached a lot of football, and we've just been around and experienced a lot of football in our lives. When you watch that post-game locker room video, to see the love that those players show Dan Campbell in game 12, and they've just won their first game. I have never seen that kind of love and support, genuine excitement, love, and support around a coach in a locker room for their first win after 12 games. I don't think I've ever seen that. I mean,
how about when Sheila Ford Happ approaches him and he picks her up,
hugs her. Yeah.
If you look, she almost wraps her legs around him, straddles him, and only gets super uncomfortable. When I fell out the first time, I was like, "Oh baby," but then she didn't, so it was fine. But
that's your takeaway from this video.
No. I saw the video earlier than when you sent it. The genuine love and acceptance and care, because you can kind of tell what kind of person he is. He's going out there every day. He's caring for his players.
He's a former NFL football player.
He's trying so hard. He played for the 0-16 Lions. He's been there. He's been through it. He knows what's going through those guys' head, and he still goes out there every single week and coaches as hard as he can. I've been rooting for him to win ever since he got there. So it's great to see it. And
he in one season is far more loved than Fat Trisha ever was in, what was it, 4 seasons or 3 seasons?
I'm saying that the roar is restored in Detroit. after last week's win.
I will say the Vikings, I don't know what in the hell they were doing on that last play. You got guys playing at the goal line and backpedaling to the back of the end zone. Like, what are you guys doing?
Our buddy Jaleel Canty tweeted that. What did he tweeted? I can't.
He goes, "Who backpedals
the end zone?"
They only rushed 3 on that play too. That was a great play call.
Yeah, the announcers even said that.
The DBs were all bailing. They just ran a
quick little route. St. Brown literally ran to the goal line and turned around and threw him a duck, and he just caught it, and nobody was around.
Yeah, everyone else they're backing up through the back of the end zone.
The Vikings were lioned, and it was amazing to watch.
So what do you guys think? They have 5 games left here, right? 10-1. I mean, at least they're not going to be the first team in NFL history to go 0-17. That's a good feeling, I suppose. But what do you think the chance is that they win
have 6 games left, I think.
5. They're 1-17.
Oh, I forgot about the tie. I forgot about the tie.
No, they got
What's their schedule?
So they're at the Broncos. They're home against the Cardinals. They're at the Falcons. At the Seahawks, home against the Packers. They have a pretty tough schedule remaining.
The Lions finish with 3 wins. Calling it now.
You think they squeak out 2 wins in those next 5 games?
Atlanta's ass cheeks, and the Broncos are actually sneaky good. They lost me a bet last week, or 2 weeks.
The Seahawks are having one of their worst seasons in a long time.
They're still the Seahawks.
They're still the Seahawks, and to go up into Seattle would be tough. I think the Lions' season finale against the Packers could be a.
I'd love to see them beat the Fudge Packers. I hate the Fudge Packers. I think they'll beat the Falcons and make it tight with the Fudge Packers.
I mean, the first time they played the Packers, it wasn't a close game, but it was 35-17
It was close
Bay.
for a half.
It was in Lambeau though.
Yeah, it was in Lambeau. So I at the last game of the season, there's a lot of teams like if they're already snug in the playoffs that they're just like, eh. So if Green Bay's snug in the playoffs at that point, I can see the Lions pulling an upset at home on their last game.
I remember when the Lions were playing the Packers in a similar scenario at Lambeau Field. I don't know, it's probably like 2014 or 15. And they sat Aaron Rodgers for that game because they had already clinched playoffs. And they played Matt Flynn, and Matt Flynn went off for like 4 or 5 touchdowns against the Lions.
Like 450 yards.
He got a massive contract with Seattle. Massive.
I remember that.
Massive contract. And I don't think he ever won a game after that.
He never played again because Russell Wilson's the quarterback out there.
Yeah, he played when Russell got hurt here and there, but I don't even know. He's probably out of the NFL now. Matt Flynn.
What's your guys' projections for their next game here next Sunday at Denver, in Denver? What do you guys think?
We beat Denver. We're coming off a high. Yeah. I'm scarily optimistic. I think
Denver's 6.
I'm scarily optimistic. I think the Lions potentially start rolling. Not blowing people out by any means, but I think they rattle off a couple wins.
Kory, you are my favorite Lions fan.
Is Swift back this week?
I think it was just an ankle sprain or maybe a knee. Snakes don't have parts, but if they did, it would be the knee.
Snakes? I don't know. No snakes. Who's Snakes? Name that movie.
Another good movie.
Home Alone, baby. Injury updates. DeAndre Swift. It doesn't say. It has not confirmed yet. There's no confirmation.
I haven't seen it, but I think they're going to lose at Denver. That's a tough place to play.
Mile High Stadium.
Mile High. Even though it's in the middle of the city, you'd think it'd be way out in the mountains, but it's in Denver, and Denver really isn't even in the mountains. So I don't know. It's weird.
You tell them, Brett. You go out there and tell them that's just
Brett. The city sits at 1 mile high, which is 2,768 feet.
Right. I understand. It's 5,280 feet.
Oh, whatever. And you're going to pick that ball up and you're going to run every one of them, Brett.
Every foot in that mile. You're killing me, Petey. You're killing me.
Killing me, Brett.
I'm glad we all got that reference there. That's great.
I miss everything that just happened. It froze in your faces like this.
Oh, you missed the Remember the Titans reference.
Yeah, I did.
5,280 feet, and you pick that ball up and you run every one of them. You're killing me, Petey.
Love it.
All right.
John Brown hind parts, and then you will run a mile.
Lions are going to lose in Denver.
Waters for clean blood off my uniform. You don't get no blood on my uniform. You must be outside your mind. That's Kory's favorite one.
No. Oh, sorry. Okay, now we're getting on a tangent. Move on.
Vince, how many times have you seen the first hour and a half of Friday Night Lights and missed the ending?
We're getting really off topic here, but how many high school football games did we play?
20.
How much macaroni and cheese did you eat before every game?
40 games worth.
40 pounds of macaroni and cheese. A desk of macaroni and cheese.
A pallet of mac. We're really getting off track here. All right. Now we're on Family Guy quotes. All right. Do you guys have any other thoughts on the Lions? Otherwise, we'll wrap this up here.
No, let's get this shit to Chris. Let's
All
give the
right.
people what they want.
So we're going to transition here seamlessly. It's from our listeners. It's just going to sound like nothing even changed, but we're going to move on to the most anticipated guest in our short 3 or 4 week history of our existence. We got Mr. Chris Castellani coming on from Barstool Sports. Very thrilled to have him on. So all right, and we're going to go ahead and segue into the second part of the podcast here, episode 3, Great Lakes State football. And I'd like to welcome on our second guest in 2 weeks. Love you, Tate Baker, but the guest we have on tonight, we're pretty excited to have this guy on. We definitely appreciate his willingness and time to come out with us here on a Tuesday night. And that is Mr. Chris Castellani, cinephile, movie reviewer, Detroit sports enthusiast, University of Michigan athletics supporter, Barstool Sports employee. Chris, how you doing, man?
Doing well, guys. I appreciate you having me. It's definitely been it's been a heater in regards to my sports teams lately, which is something I'm not used to. But it's really,
you talked
really
about that in the video you posted.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's been unlike anything I've been around for a long time.
When you said that, I was watching your video. When you said that, it kind of hit me. You're a couple years younger than me, but I didn't think about the fact that some of the sports teams that you support and follow haven't had in our lifetime, your lifetime, we're not that far apart in age, had that much success. They've had success, but I think the kind of success that you got to experience in person on Saturday has to be, as you said in the video, one of the most satisfying experiences.
It was the best. It was the best. I mean, I think I made my bones talking about the Tigers, and we're on the up and up, but I made my bones at a time in which Tiger baseball was barely qualified as baseball. I mean, it was a group of guys trying to play a sport. But so, I mean, it's rewarding that to get to a point where things are just a little bit better, but this wasn't just a little bit better. This was a lot better. I mean, this was, it's the most enjoyable sports has been for me in a long, long time.
Yeah. And as I told these guys, and I mentioned to you, I went to the Michigan State Iowa game back in 2015. I'm very fortunate and blessed as an MSU fan that I got to, I was privileged enough to experience Mark D'Antonio, that stretch there. But that was, I think I told you, my favorite experience as a sports fan. I sat in the end zone that LJ Scott scored in. I was in a great seat. So if you want to talk about just your experience, man, what was that like for you going down to Indy? Was that your first time down in Indy?
Yeah, well, I've never had a reason to go. My team's never been down there, so I didn't.
I didn't know if maybe another reason, but
I'll say this honestly, I was blown away by just the city of Indianapolis as a whole.
It's a nice city.
It's
beautiful city,
gorgeous, man. It's clean. The restaurants are great. The people are nice. I mean, it got to a point because I got down there Thursday, which I had to, because if you tried to book a hotel Friday, Saturday, everything was sold out. So
I heard some of the crazy prices there.
I had to get, I spent an unreasonable amount of money just to get down there.
Oh God.
But I was blown away by the city itself. And it was weird because I got there on Saturday, or not got there, but I was on when Saturday came around. My buddy and my best friend, Anthony Broom, who I used to work with at Mason Brew, who now works for the Wolverine. We woke up Saturday morning and it's like, dude, I'm already exhausted. Like there's still a game that's got to go down here. Like, so we kind of took it relatively light on Saturday, and we get there, and Lucas Oil as a facility, it just feels different than other football stadiums. It's huge. It feels like a place where a championship game should be played. And it was gorgeous. And then you get there. And I was stressed. Because I'm like, man, this has been an amazing weekend. But I got to see the capper. Like they got to finish the job here. And I said this, or I alluded to this in my video, where I'm probably at some point going to go back and watch the highlights and be like, I mean, this thing was over when it was 14-3. It probably was. Iowa couldn't move the ball, but really,
their offense was awful.
It was awful. And Mike McDonald's defense had an amazing game plan. It wasn't until it was 21-3, but it wasn't until Cornelius Johnson blocked that punt where I was kind of looking around being like, we're going to score here. And Iowa's not going to score 4 times. I mean, like Michigan
they can't. They don't even score 4 times, like on average in the season. Once we hit 21,
they couldn't score 4 points. I mean, so it was. I was watching. I'm like, this is great. I mean, the game itself was the reward, but really, there were whispers and rumors this week about the fact that Detroit is trying to get the Big Ten championship game played there at some point. And I'll always root for Detroit, and I want good things to happen there. They still got a ways to go because Indy's just got it. And I mean, that was really a wonderful, wonderful experience. The facility was great. I mean, Lucas Oil is incredible. It was a real time for sure. It was really a lot of fun.
I don't know.
How about Iowa's punter though? Iowa's punter was probably their best player. They kept him in that. Michigan was
for a minute. That's what was frustrating. Is
very
like
impressive punter. Yeah.
That's what was frustrating. Is for a minute I was like, we're gonna. It feels like we're in control of this game, but we're one touchdown away from putting this thing away. Now, one thing that to me has gone overlooked about Michigan all year that can't be ignored, because Iowa's. They win games with field position and a great defense. Michigan kind of won playing Iowa's game because one thing people have overlooked is how good Michigan's special teams has been.
51 yards a punt, I think the punter.
Yeah, I mean, Robbins has been incredible. Jake Moody is one of the best kickers in the country. They've blocked punts. They haven't made mistakes on punts or field goals. I mean, we're talking about a team last year that was 4 for 9 collectively kicking field goals. I mean, they have completely flipped the script. And I think that you beat Iowa by being sound, by being fundamental, by not making mistakes. And they didn't do that. Outside of Cade's interception, they didn't do that on Saturday. And I think that it just left Iowa in a really tough spot. And it led to the beatdown that it became.
Absolutely. And well, I mean, the thing that I noticed about Iowa all season too is, as you mentioned a moment ago, they're not a team that when they get behind is going to find a way to crawl themselves back into a game.
Sure.
And that was apparent, like you said, that 14-3. There was a few moments when it was 14-3, and obviously Iowa came out early. The very first drive went right down the field, and then they missed a field goal. I don't think it was that long of a field goal. I think it was
33 yards. I mean, it was, and they've had a great kicker all years too. So I mean, that was a surprise that they kind of stalled there in the end of that drive.
They kept driving to about the 50 and just pinning us like inside the 10, and it was getting to the point. As a Michigan fan, you're starting to stress out. Like, okay, it's 14-3, but you're starting from the 2, the 5, the 7, the 10. You're like, holy crap! Just get away.
Henning made at least one mistake, arguably 2, catching a couple punts that might have rolled into the end zone on punt returns. But no one's thinking about that now. With the way things ended. I mean, they played a really great game, and in the second half, really the one thing Michigan was having problems with in the first half was those tight end kind of bootleg routes, hitting the tight ends in the flat. They adjusted to that. I mean, they put their linebackers back in coverage, and Iowa really had no answer in the second half, and it led to the game it ended up becoming.
I mean, the clear differential between Don Brown and McDonald is that McDonald comes from the NFL game where you literally are forced to make those adjustments at halftime and throughout the game and all year. I mean, The only game you could honestly say he didn't make adjustments was against Michigan State.
Yeah, but even that game, I just sometimes you just get beat by a player. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I understand. Yep. I think that in the first half they got beat by the up tempo, but really, sometimes you just go up against a guy who's really good. I mean, and in fairness, you look at a lot of the plays in that game outside of Kenneth Walker. You look at the 2-point conversions. You look at the fourth downs. Michigan was in position to make plays in that game, and they just weren't able to. Sometimes
kicking 4 field goals in that game hurt him.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, sometimes you just get beat in execution, and I feel like that's what they did. But yeah, the coaching staff has, I mean, they just turned it up a notch. I mean, all year. I mean, I don't know. It's so weird to me because Josh Gaddis was so like just whatever for 2.5 years.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, like I would say it was after the Indiana game this year, where all of a sudden you're seeing the creative play calling in the red zone. You're seeing the reverses. You're seeing the flea flickers. And like, it's not like a player who's like a young freshman who becomes, some stud later on. Like Gaddis was just there. And all of a sudden he was, the play calling in the latter part of the season has been, I mean, it's been remarkable what they've been able to do. And
I think a lot of it comes down to his faith in Cade McNamara.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't had a quarterback he can trust since he's been there. I mean, Shea Patterson, he was good, but when it came down to it, he just couldn't make the big plays in the big moment. And Cade is always calm. He always seems to make the correct throws. If the first read isn't there, he's got the second read. He throws from different arm angles. I think it's a guy that Josh trusts, and it helps him be a little bit more aggressive because
I think Harbaugh's let off the reins a little bit on Gaddis. I think if you watch Harbaugh on the sideline, you can tell he's not as much dialed in to like every single play going into the quarterback that he would be in the past, where it's like, holy shit, like what are we waiting on here? Like, come
right.
on, get a play in.
And I think the other big thing too, and this can't be ignored, is this offensive line has been just remarkable. I mean, it's funny because they beat Ohio State offensively the way that they've tried to beat them in the past and weren't able to do. I mean, they punched them in the mouth repeatedly that entire game. I mean, that famous last drive against Ohio State this year, it was a 5-play drive and it was all counters and draw plays to Hassan Haskins. I mean, it was just them, that offensive line imposing their will against Ohio State. And I think that when you have a line that you trust, it opens up the play calling exponentially, and it's led to a team that's been, really sound and really fun to watch.
It makes play calling a lot easier too when you're ahead. Michigan's been ahead pretty much the entire season, so it's a lot easier to call plays that way.
And that really does matter. You guys mentioned it with Iowa, but Michigan's kind of the same way, though they've had a few comebacks this year. In general, you go back and watch some of the Ohio State games of the past or the Michigan State games of the past. They have always had those dumb early turnovers, those dumb mistakes where all of a sudden, or drop passes, third down conversions they should have made that they didn't. Where
penalties.
Or penalties where all of a sudden it's 14-3 or it's 10 and you're all of a sudden forced to play a game that doesn't fall in line with the kind of offense that you have. They've been ahead in almost every game this year, and I think that it's allowed them to play much more confident football, and it's led to what it's led to.
I think something, especially, I'm outnumbered here 3-1. I'm the in-house Michigan State fan, but something that impresses me as a, I would say unbiased, but I'm not a Michigan fan. I am incredibly impressed by the fact that Michigan is seemingly doing what I thought Ohio State was originally doing. I thought Ohio State was getting better and better and better. Michigan is getting better and better and better. Do you guys realize that Michigan has only scored more than 40 points in 5 games this year? 2 of them came in the early season against Western and Northern Illinois. The other 3, the last 3 games. Yeah. 59, 42, 42. Very impressive in their last 3 games.
For sure.
They're turning it on offensively. You're talking about a defense. I mean, everyone already knows how great their defense is. They've given up 209 total points in 13 games. Yeah. That is incredible. They've only given up more than 30 points once, and that was to Michigan State in a very hostile environment. Obviously, one of their toughest matchups of the year. And like you mentioned, a player who just went off for one of his best games of the season. Impressive stuff defensively from Michigan this season.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I think that what you've had is a defensive coordinator who's substantially less stubborn and who has gone away from the constant man-to-man and has more often than not out-schemed the opponent. Iowa had no answer.
And now if we get that at Michigan State, Jesus Christ.
What's that?
I said, now if we get that at Michigan State, holy crap.
Right. I mean, I think that I chalk up that more so to they got to find their guys. I think that I'll give it a few years before you can put it on the defensive coordinator for what they've done this year. But no, it's
put it on them a little bit.
A little bit. No, for sure. I mean, I think that what Michigan's been able to do schematically, they've catered to their strengths. They've had this incredible defensive line all year.
Absolutely.
And it's been a confident bunch, and it's been fun.
Yeah, they play with confidence. One thing that McDonald does so well is the way he disguises his coverages. There will be plays when there's 8 guys on the line of scrimmage. Some of them are standing up. Some of them have their hand in the dirt. And all of a sudden they're dropping back in cover 3 or cover 4. It's like, what the heck is going on here? I mean, that is so tough for a quarterback.
Swapping coverages, which is crazy.
Exactly.
On the go.
And it's impressive. I mean, there's times when it happened in the Ohio State game. Your defensive end is running with a slot receiver downfield. I mean, there was one time with Ojabo. He was running downfield with the receiver. He got burned, but just
to have that option, to even have that option or ability, though.
And I think the D line has stepped up immensely. I mean, I'm not even talking to Jabo and Hutchinson. I'm talking Mozzie Smith and Jeter and those guys. Against Michigan State, you're kind of sitting there and okay, we're doing a good job of clogging the line of scrimmage, but everything's getting bounced. And I think at some point, McDonald really pushed the fact of, hey, interiorly, you guys need to hold it so that Ojabo and Aiden can clean up house. And if you've watched it since Ohio State and Iowa, perfect example. You got your interior guys aren't moving. They're just stuffing the line. And our 2 All-Americans can just do what they need to do and clean up everything. Same with Josh Ross and everybody else. So,
yeah, I completely agree.
So one thing I don't want to wish the season away or anything, but what's even more impressive is on offense, Michigan's, I think, maybe going to only lose 1 guy. Well, 2, including Hassan. I mean, I'm pretty sure Hassan has the opportunity to come back, but Vistardis is a 6th year. He's gone. Pretty much everybody else can come back. And then you go on defense. We're going to lose Josh Ross, Aiden Hutchinson, obviously, to the draft. We'll probably lose Ojabo to the draft. I think Donovan Jeter is going to be gone too. But in our secondary, Dax Hills were to stay. We got a pretty solid group. I guess Brad Hawkins is probably going to graduate. But nonetheless, class of 2016.
It's the last one. I think that is the one thing that excites me and there will be things that need to be replaced, obviously. I mean, this team just has really great leadership, and a player like Hutch adds even more to a team than just beyond what he does on the football field. But you look at AJ Henning and you look at Cornelius Johnson and Sandra Still, and one guy who I think has been kind of the unsung hero of the entire team is Eric All. I mean, the improvement
guy does everything.
Made, I think Eric All is going to be an NFL tight end. I mean, he's been very good this year. And Schoonmaker. I mean, my guess is they'll lose Haskins, but that running back room is loaded, man. I mean,
it's reloaded. It's reloaded.
Jonathan Edwards is good, man. And Corum, if not for his injury, we'd be talking about a team with 2,000-yard backs. I mean, that is in 2021 college football almost unheard of. And he could still get to 1,000 if they play a few more games. I think he's at almost 900 right now. So I mean, it's the skill position players are there. There will be, and I'm not even thinking about it right now, but there will be another quarterback controversy because I think JJ's special. I think McCarthy has a ceiling that we haven't seen at Michigan I'll say since Chad Henne, but it might even be
It's
higher.
been a
than that.
while since Michigan's had a memorable quarterback.
Yeah,
I mean,
this
Denard
guy-
Robinson had quite the
Denard
career,
Robinson
but-
sticks out, especially as a Michigan State fan. Like Denard Robinson's one for me, like in my lifetime, that sticks out. And Chad Henne, I remember as a kid, Chad Henne, but I
Started as a
couldn't.
true freshman.
Yeah, I couldn't sit here and pinpoint other ones. I could probably think about it and come up with, but they really don't. They haven't had a really good quarterback in a while, and I think they have one right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's weirdly become very similar, very reminiscent to me of Florida in 2006 when they had Chris Leak and Tim Tebow as the backup, and they would bring Tebow into these games to barrel over people and run for touchdowns and throw every so often. And
I forgot they did that.
I remember at the time people being like, "What are you doing?" And it's sometimes you just have a player who's just too talented to sit. That might be the case with JJ McCarthy. I early on in the year it drove me nuts, but I think the way they've used
working
him
now, the offense is taking off.
The way they've used him this year has been really admirable, and they found their footing for sure.
Go ahead, Brett.
I would say I got a question for you guys. Say in the first half, Michigan's struggling to move the ball against Georgia, and you think of everyone saying how great of a call it was with Nick Saban in the championship to bring in Tua, bench Jalen Hurts. Do you think Jim Harbaugh's got the balls to put JJ in and just say go?
I do. No, I think he has the spine to do it. I think that the leash will be long, partially because I don't think Georgia's offense is anything special. Like I don't see Michigan having an early 2-3 touchdown deficit because I just don't think they have the firepower offensively. But I do think there is potentially a moment in which he says, okay, in case of emergency, break glass, bring in JJ McCarthy. I think that is a thing. But I also think that's been a thing all year. I think that if they would have fallen behind 14-0 to Penn State, if they would have fallen behind 14-0 to Ohio State, I think he might have gone to that. They've been just good enough. Cade has been just good enough to kind of keep him in the game. I do think there is a future in which they say, all right, let's make him the guy. But I think it will take a lot for him to kind of shake things up like that.
The thing is that JJ is your 5-star show pony. When he comes in, he's going to do things that you just don't. I mean, we see it when he comes in now. I mean, he had a couple runs against Iowa that he busted for 10, 15 yards. And you're like, holy crap, he's fast. But you got Cade as somebody who's played football at the next level. You're looking at Cade as he's not going to turn the ball over. He's going to do everything right. And personally, for me, I must have trust issues or something. I wouldn't get rid of Cade because I just know what I'm going to get. He's going to come out and give you 200 yards passing. He may have a half a turnover a game, and you're good. You're good. You're clean sailing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's what they've liked about him all year. I don't want to speak on anybody from the past, but I do think that there have been issues with past Michigan quarterbacks regarding leadership, work ethic, and Cade has all that. He's a tough guy, and I think it's that line from I know you guys are movie people, but it's that line from Miracle where Herb Brooks is like, I don't want the best guys, I want the right ones. Well, Cade's been the right one this year. He has fit into what this team has been trying to do, and it's led to this incredible success that they've had.
Yeah, I think it's helped Harbaugh. I think Harbaugh's finally. Yeah. I think Harbaugh's finally in a spot. I think you can tell just by watching his mannerisms on the sideline. First off, he loves the game again. Second off, he lost 50 pounds, so his wife's probably making sweet love to him again. But he just seems like he's got guys out there who love Michigan, love football, and they're just rolling, which is beautiful to see.
It's been a really fun team. It really has. I mean, there's good personalities there. There's good leadership. It's hard to complain right now, given the year they've had.
So what do you guys think here as we kind of winding down just Michigan talk in general in the Big Ten championship game, kind of going into this game against Georgia? How we feeling here? I personally was not impressed with Georgia in that SEC championship game. I would say color me shocked, but if you go through Georgia's schedule and you kind of look at the teams they were playing, and their non-conference schedule is an absolute joke other than Clemson. And that was their first game of the year. Clemson ended up finishing 9-3. But as we've talked on this podcast, the ACC is not really anything to, run home about. So what do you guys think about this matchup? I personally, I think Michigan's got a pretty good chance against Georgia.
I like it. I like the matchup. I think, not to cut Chris off, but
No,
I just think, I don't know. First off, I think Michigan got skimped. They should have been one, but we won't go into that right now.
I agree too.
But I just think Georgia played on the rough side of the SEC. I think that Georgia kind of Georgia reminds me of Iowa with a little bit better offense. I would say substantially better offense, but
I would
not
say substantially better offense.
But it's not like if Ohio State's here and Iowa's here, I would say Georgia's right in between them. They're not. Yeah. They're not great at anything. So I like the matchup personally. I don't mind it.
Yeah, I mean, they got a shot. I also have know how this works, and I've seen it in the past where I remember 2015, you brought it up earlier, Vince, where when Michigan State came into that Alabama game thinking like this Alabama team, they're good, they're really good. But they're not infallible. I mean, Michigan State's going to have a shot. They got a team if they're healthy, and Bama just rolled them. I mean,
as an MSU fan, I was face in hands at halftime. God.
Yeah. That's what Bama does. I mean, they don't beat you. They demoralize you. I mean, that's, exactly. I don't think that even if Michigan plays their worst game, this is going to be a kind of 35-7 kind of game, just because I just don't think Georgia's offense is good enough. And I don't think our defense is bad. Defense is too good to be giving up 6-7 touchdowns unless we just turn the ball over, at a ridiculous rate, 4 or 5 times, which they haven't done all year.
Yeah.
They got a shot, and that's the best you can ask for. If they lose, whether it's by 40 or 3, it really will not change how I feel about what this team's done this year.
Absolutely. That's how I feel about the MSU team in 2015.
It's I cannot get angry. It's very similar to some of those Final Four years with Michigan basketball where you get there, that's the best you could do. I mean, this team was unranked preseason. They had a 2% shot of winning their own division, according to Vegas, and they're in the college football playoff. Everything beyond this point is gravy. I'd love to see them win. I know they're going to put their best foot forward. They have all year. They have not played really a bad game all season. So we'll see. I hope it turns out well. If it doesn't, nothing but love for what this team's been able to do.
What is it? What did it open at? Georgia by 7? Is that what it
7.5? I think.
Yeah, I think it's going up to like 9 though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's moving around. There's still some time, but I agree with you guys. Honestly, I think this is the best matchup for Michigan. With Cincinnati, Desmond Ridder, he's a little bit scary on the ground too, and Michigan kind of struggled with Adrian Martinez earlier in the year. They really haven't faced a true dual threat the rest of the year, which has kind of helped the defense. But I think Georgia likes to try and play bully ball with you. They're gonna run the ball. They're gonna play tough nosed defense, just like me do. It's just a matter of who wants it more. And Stetson Bennett, he's a walk on playing quarterback right now. So that's another thing to. I don't think he's the most talented quarterback that they've played this year, and I believe Georgia's wideout is still questionable for the game. Their star wideout, so that's another thing to follow before the game starts. But obviously, I'd rather play Georgia than Bama all day. I'm not going to make my prediction yet. I still have some weeks yet to see who's going to win.
You bring up their defense. I mean, Michigan is very impressive at only giving up 209 points in this season, but Georgia's only given up 124. But again, I should say they played Charleston Southern, they played Georgia Tech, and they played Alabama Birmingham, and held those 3 teams to a combined 14 points. So, I mean,
Vince, there's one thing that I don't like to follow stats, and I hate looking at defensive stats, honestly. I don't think it really tells you who the true team is because, like you just said, there's
that's what I'm implying. I'm inferring that I don't think that tells the whole story. When you see 124 points, you're like, whoa, and then you go and check their schedule, and you're like, oh, that's who they're playing.
And relative, Michigan had a really good out of conference schedule. I mean,
That's
you
what
got
I'm
the
saying.
MAC champs, you got another bowl MAC team, and you got Washington, which you don't know Washington's going to suck, but Washington had a good defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too, going back to what I was saying about defensive stats, is Michigan always had a great defense, and they went and played Ohio State, and Ohio State executed. So really, it comes down to what offensive coordinator is going to call executes the other team's weakness. So I know both teams have a good defense, but it's hard to say that one's better than the other purely off stats.
Yeah, I agree.
And a lack of common opponents.
Yeah, that's the toughest part. That, as we always, the three of us always talk about, I'm sure, Chris, you could agree, the transitive property with sports, man. That you can't ever.
It gets you every time.
Yeah, you have to go. You have to go game by game for sure before.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Absolutely.
I'm excited though. I think it's going to be a great game. You got a couple blue bloods. Georgia's pretty much the same type of team Michigan is. They're always like almost there, but not quite. They got their what they think is their guy, and Kirby Smart. He's taken them to the playoffs one time before, and they lost to Bama. I think that was with Jake Fromm leading the way. More situation to that team though, with Jake Fromm being the Cade McNamara, the more methodical player, and you got the 5-star sitting in the helm. Although I don't think JJ is going to leave like Fields did, but I'm intrigued. It's going to be fun to watch.
Absolutely. I'm excited for the college football playoff this year. I'm still a huge proponent, as we have talked before on this podcast and as friends, that I can't stand the fact that we qualify 4 teams as a playoff in the second highest level of competition in the football in this country, but we have no control over that. So I'm still excited about it nonetheless. All right. Do you guys have anything else you want to add? Otherwise, we'll wrap up with our last topic here.
Go blue.
Go green, baby. All right. We're going to move on to Heisman candidates here. This is the last thing we wanted to talk about just because this was kind of big breaking news at the beginning of this week here. Aiden Hutchinson, huge nomination, pretty exciting for University of Michigan fans and the program as a whole, getting on the ballot with Young, Stroud, and Pickett. Unfortunately, K9, Kenneth Walker III, huge snub. It was actually trending on Twitter in Michigan. Quite a few people very upset about it, including myself. I don't think Kenneth should win the Heisman by any stretch of the, imagination, but I really think it's pretty crazy that easily the best back in Power 5 football. I mean, Lou Nichols had a hell of a season for Central Michigan, but best back in Power 5 football doesn't even get an invitation, I think is pretty crazy. I saw a lot of people talking about this, debating about it. I think one of the problems is you get voters for the Heisman who do not really watch college football. They probably watch regionally or locally their teams or, whatever they feel like watching. These are not people who are consistently watching nationally, every team, every player, taking into account what everyone's doing. But those are my early opinions. What do you guys have? Chris, you want to chime in on this one?
Yeah. Yeah, Walker got hosed. I mean, the guy had an incredible year. I'll say this. It's a very weird year for the Heisman this year. It's because there's no Joe Burrows. There's no Derrick Henrys. There's no guys who just have separate, like Joe Burrow won the Heisman
themselves.
Yeah. Joe Burrow won the Heisman on like October 1st. Like, I mean, he just had it that season. It's a weird year. There's a level of luck in stat padding that comes with the Heisman. For example, this is the one I always go to. The year Kyler Murray won, where he deserved to win. He was Kyler Murray was just a revelation that season. But I know Tua finished second. And I remember everyone pointed to the fact that year he only played 3 fourth quarters because Bama was up by so much that they just took him out of the game. There is a level of luck that comes with winning the Heisman. It's why guys like Andrew Luck never won. It's why guys like Trevor Lawrence never won, or Deshaun Watson. I mean, there is, you do have to get lucky.
Yep.
What I don't get, and I know you're movie guys, so I'll use the Oscars example. I don't understand why they decide the number of candidates. Like why? Yeah. My guess is Kenneth Walker will probably finish 5th.
Yeah.
I have been alive many times where I've seen 5 people go to the Heisman Trophy ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the criteria to say, okay, this year we're only doing 4. This year we're only doing 3. It's like that. It's like Best Picture with the Oscars, where we can do up to 10.
But this year we're only doing 8. Yeah.
Yeah. If we only want to do 8, then screw it. We're going to do 8. Like, you can't tell me that Kenneth Walker did not do enough this year to earn at least a invitation to the ceremony.
Yeah, I don't think he should win. I agree with anyone who brings up the Ohio State game, and I will respond with the fact that he did get hurt and they were down so much. Why would he keep playing? He had 6 rushes for 24 yards. He still averaged 4 yards a carry in the first half. But yeah, he had a shitty game. So he doesn't really deserve to win it, but his whole body of work was pretty impressive this year. And MSU does not win 10 games without his performance.
Oh, of course not.
Maybe 6 or 7 wins without him.
And it's where the luck factor comes in, because it is not Kenneth Walker's fault that they were behind 28-0 in the first quarter. Like, no. You're not gonna Mel Tucker's not gonna say, all right, look, guys, we got to run the football because we got to pad some stats. Like, you want to try to win the football game, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. He got 6 carries, 25 yards, because the flow of the game and the process of what went down dictated that they had to do that.
Yeah.
I know there were people who were angry Stroud went. I can't argue I don't buy into the argument of like, well, he had great receivers and great offensive linemen. Well, so did Bryce Young. So did Kyler Murray. Joe Burrow had like the greatest offense ever. I don't think that you should be, you should prevent a guy from going to the Heisman ceremony because he had really good talent around him. Hutch, to me, deserved to be there. Aiden Hutchinson.
He had a hell of a season.
It was apparent. I remember being at the Washington game and just saying, man, this guy's in the backfield every play. And it's one of those things where I feel like in previous years, maybe he wouldn't have had the stats, though he's had an amazing year. What happened was you go to PFF and you look analytically at quarterback pressures and the way he's impacted the game. There's not 4 or 5 players in the country who've been better than he's been. It's a very frustrating thing. It's an annoying thing because you felt like Walker had his Heisman moment with the Michigan game. He was incredible. It's the same annoyance that comes with Hall of Fame voting with baseball, where ballots don't become public till after the announcement.
Yep.
I don't really understand why. I think that guys should have to explain their reasoning. Their reasoning. No. It's the same thing where there was a year when Mark Ingram won the Heisman over Toby Gerhart, and it was a very close race. And a lot of people said that the kind of like deciding factor was the fact that Toby Gerhart played on the West Coast, and a lot of people just didn't watch his game. I think that you have kind of a similar thing where, like, and it's not fair. It's not. But Ohio State's on national television 3-4 times a year. Michigan is on national television 3-4 times a year. Outside of the Michigan and the Ohio State games, maybe Nebraska as well, because that was a night game. Michigan State did not have those national opportunities.
Well, and one of the opportunities they had, Kenneth didn't have a good game.
They got destroyed. Exactly. So there is a lot of politicking involved that makes it, annoying. I'm really happy for Hutchinson, who has just had an incredible impact on the program, and who I would love to see be the number 1 pick for the Lions next year, potentially. But it will be an ultimate mystery, and I can't begrudge any Michigan State fan who feels like their guy got hosed, because he was the best running back in college football this year.
Yeah, just to chime in, I agree. He got hosed. And sadly, I don't think Aiden Hutchinson's got a shot, because the Heisman's turned into the best quarterback award for whatever reason.
Which is a shame. I would love to see defense. Yeah. As a defensive coordinator and a former defensive player, I would love to see defensive guys win it. But
I think the award needs to go to the most dominant player in college football. Offense, like you said, Mark Ingram, he was hands down the most dominant player in college football. Joe Burrow, most dominant player in college football. And would I say Aiden Hutchinson's the most dominant player? No, but I would say if you took him, Bryce Young, and probably just those two, it's a toss and a hat to who's better between him and Bryce Young. But it's kind of cool because and Vince might remember this. We got to watch Aiden Hutchinson at Divine Child in high school with a buddy of ours.
We watched him on film.
And if
they played against East Lansing, we had to watch some of their game film.
And back then, we made a comment about this kid. Like, who is this?
We were
kid?
like,
huge.
Holy crap! Yeah, he was a.
He's the best. He's the best player I've ever seen on film in high school.
He was enormous on film.
But what's crazy is that he's taken literally what got him to Michigan, his motor, and refined his skills. And if you told me that every team that Michigan has played has not schemed against Aiden Hutchinson, I would look you in the face and call you a liar.
Right.
Like every single team, the things he was doing to Iowa, and people are like, well, he only had 3 tackles and 1 sack against Iowa. Well, Iowa also went 50-50 run to pass for like the first time all year. And on all their pass plays, it was either play action or it was like 3-step drop balls out in a quarter second. And then later in the game when things were really reeling, I mean, guess what? Aiden Hutchinson's blowing up tackles like it's his job. Mind you, that guy's going to be a top 10 draft pick, and he ran him over like a traffic cone. So
right.
I don't know. I just think the Heisman skewed. I think Walker got hosed, though. I think he definitely has to be invited. CJ Stroud had a great year. Kenny Pickett, I don't like that guy because he fake slid. He's on my hate list the rest of my life. So
do you guys think Will Anderson got screwed?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. That's who I was going to say is the biggest snub was Will Anderson. He had 10.5 more.
His numbers are wild.
He had 10.5 more tackles for loss than anybody else in FBS. He had roughly the same amount of sacks as Aiden Hutchinson, which, I mean, he's a linebacker, so it's a little bit different. But I think him and Walker getting snubbed, to Chris's point, why is there only 4? There should be 6 people that are invited.
Yeah.
And even 8. Why not like 8?
Well, just whoever gets an appropriate amount of votes. If the amount of votes is 100, if you get 100, then you're invited.
Right. And I was just thinking, as you guys were talking, you all brought up great points, but why is there has to be some sort of criteria where everyone in every position is on an equal playing field? And I look at Pro Football Focus. I'd be very interested to look at who has the best average throughout the entire season, say like a minimum 10 or 12 games, who has the best Pro Football Focus average. And I'd be interested to see if it was the guys that they selected for Heisman or not. I think that's a criteria that links every position on an equal playing field. Every down is looked at, whether you're making the play or not.
Have the head coaches vote.
But I think this goes back to a ground level problem that you have people voting who don't really watch that much football.
That's why I said have the head coaches vote, because the head coach at Iowa, Kirk Ferentz, would be like, what the hell's going on here? Aiden Hutchinson just buttered up our biscuits for 4 quarters.
Like Joe Rexroad, he has a vote for the Heisman, which is extremely random. Like a guy that works for the Free Press.
Well, that's the other problem too, is when you have one, you don't lose it. So you can literally I like Joe, but Joe doesn't really cover football much anymore. Like that was my point. He still has the vote. Like, and Graham Couch wrote a really great piece on LSJ today where he's like, I watched every run of Kenneth Walker's season. I probably saw 20 passes that Bryce Young threw all year. And yet I had Bryce Young ahead of Kenneth Walker, like on my ballot. I do think name and status and school makes a big difference. Now, with that said, Kenny Pickett made it. I mean, we're talking Pittsburgh is not some national brand, and he's a Heisman finalist. So that
lost to Western.
That does admittedly throw a bit of a wrench into the plans, but for the most part, I agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, it's definitely an award that I think a lot of people are slowly losing faith in or not putting as much stock in anymore. I think the Heisman, the name, the Heisman Trophy, I think it definitely had a certain aura and excitement around it for a very long time in the sport of college football. And I feel like in the last, especially 5 years, that it's really starting to lose its allure. It's shocking.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not quite as exciting as it used to be. But well, all right, gentlemen, do you have anything else you want to add here? Otherwise, I think we are at the end.
I'm good.
We're all good.
Good.
All right.
I'm all set. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, Mr. Chris Castellani, for coming on and joining our podcast here to talk some football. Especially, I'm sure you were more than happy to talk Michigan football after the experience this last weekend.
Who isn't?
Right, after this weekend, definitely, yeah.
Chris, at what point did you sit back I sat back in my chair. I think it was when after we sang Mr. Brightside a cappella, and I just knew the game was over. And I just sat in my chair like 20 beers deep and was just like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
The big moment to me was Kojo's punt block. Because I was running through the scenarios in my head, and it's like, worst case, they're still not scoring 3 touchdowns here. So it was a magical night, and to see the response by the fans and the program. I mean, it was dope, dude. It was something I'll never forget.
Nope.
Well, I'm happy for you guys.
Thank you, man.
I'm happy on your behalf.
We get to deserve to be happy once.
I did.
Yeah,
I did get to
17
experience.
years.
I did get to experience it once, so I do have that. I did get to experience it, so I know how you guys are feeling. It's a great feeling, man. Well, all right, Chris. Before we finish here, you wanna plug, man? You wanna share anything for the people that they can check out
on Twitter at Castellani 2014. That's Castellani 2014. There you'll find the links to everything: the movie reviews, the podcasts. Barstool's pulling me in a million different directions, thankfully. Yeah. And
love it.
Right now I am temporarily, for the time being, a co-host of Lights Camera Barstool, which is a movie podcast with Jeff Lowe and Jack Kennedy. That has been really, really fun to do.
I will add, I just saw that you started doing that, man. As a viewer, I really enjoy it. So anyone listening, definitely check it out.
Those guys are great. I mean, they really, really kill it. So I'm looking forward to that. And videos after every Michigan football and basketball game. And then if baseball, can get its head out of its ass, I hope I can start doing Tigers videos again at some point. We'll see. But no, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you guys taking the time and having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. And we will be back next week. Not a lot of football to talk next week. We'll probably be talking all-state high school football as they're announcing that. The Associated Press is slowly putting that out this week. So we'll have a few things to talk at the end of next week, but not a whole lot, unfortunately, until the bowl games get going. But in the meantime, definitely check out our bowl pick'em. We're sharing that on Twitter and Instagram. The pot is over $250 right now. We're hoping to double that in the next week here. So definitely check out the bowl pick'em. Contact us on Twitter or Instagram if you want to join. Well, all right. That's episode 3. Thanks for listening. Chris, thanks for joining us. I'm Vince. We got Kory and Brett. Great Lake State football. Mr. Chris Castellani. Go green, baby. Go Chargers.
Go blue.
Okay.